The mid-sized electric SUV class is brimming with options ranging from the Tesla Model Y to the Skoda Enyaq iV and far more. But the Nissan Ariya and Volkswagen ID.5 are two of the latest offerings, and they both bring something new to the party.
I'm going to start by talking about the Nissan Ariya. This is the first pure electric model that Nissan has launched since the Leaf. Now, it's also on a new platform. It's called the CMF EV platform. It's offered with two different batteries. You can have a 63 or an 87 kilowatt hour usable capacity, and that gives you an official WLTP range of between 250 and 329 miles. That does also take into account the fact that you can get the Nissan with front wheel drive or four wheel drive and a bit more power. And price-wise, you're looking at £44,000 right up to about £56,000 for those high-end four-wheel drive versions.
This here is the VW ID.5. It is essentially a swoopier, fancier version of the Volkswagen ID.4, which means that you get the familiar MEB platform, and at the moment it's only available with a 77 kilowatt hour battery that gets you an official WLTP range of up to 327 miles. Prices start at around about £50,000, which is, by the way, almost exactly the same prices you'll pay for the cheapest long-range Ariya.
These two are really similar in terms of size, price and ambition then. But if I have to make a decision between the two when it comes to the styling, well, I'm definitely going to have to go for the Nissan. It's got really fabulous concept car looks, really kind of sharp creases. I do really like this sort of copper-coloured launch colour they've got too. I just think they've done a fabulous job. It's really eye-catching despite this being quite a generic-looking class of car, I think. The Volkswagen, on the other hand, well, I think it looks really good. I like the proportions of it, but it doesn't look very sporty and athletic, does it? It's got a really sort of stumpy front end, and something about it just kind of makes me want to kind of grab its cheeks and squish them. It's kind of cute. And whether that's what you want from a family SUV or not, well, it may be, maybe it's not. Anyway, to most people, practicality will be the more important issue.
The Nissan has a somewhat middling 466 litres of boot space, which for some context is what you get in the Nissan Qashqai. You also get some cable storage under the boot floor, as well as a powered tailgate on both trims, but neither of these cars have any storage in the nose. The Volkswagen gets a much more useful 549 litres of boot space, and it does have a slightly deeper boot as well, which is useful if you've got a chunky buggy to fit in. There's also a variable floor to hide your cables away, but only higher spec cars get a powered boot lid. Both cars have 60/40 split rear seats that lie flush with the boot floor when folded, and the Volkswagen also comes with a through-loading cubby.
Passenger space in the back of the ID.5 is very generous, particularly in terms of the legroom, and it's just you get really nice comforts like this huge glass roof, definitely going to keep the kids happy, as is the standard rear climate control, and you get a nice centre armrest with cup holders here, so maybe headroom could be a touch better, but even so I think you get two 6-footers back here, no problem at all. Passenger space in the Nissan, there is masses of legroom. Headroom though is a little bit tight. You do feel like this sunroof, which is optional on the base trim, well, that does kind of eat into your headroom a little bit. I still think kind of your average adult's going to be really comfy back here, but it does feel a tiny bit dark, and I think some people might expect a little bit better on that front. Even so, the seats are nice and comfy, nice sort of deep bases here, and you do get your centre armrest plus charging points in the back. More importantly than anything practical like how comfortable it is back here is that you get this lovely shag pile carpet as standard in the Ariya, which I have to say, it's, well, I mean, it's really impressively luxurious, but then if you've got kids, you're going to take it out immediately because otherwise it's going to be full of crisps and mud in about 3 minutes. The finish and look of the interior in the Nissan, I think, as well as the way it looks on the outside, is one of the big reasons people are going to go for this car. It looks really cool in here. There's a real boutique feel to it. There's something almost a bit kind of Volvo-ish about it, with this kind of wood finish that they've got around here, touch-sensitive buttons that are sort of on the wood effect finish. It really feels quite special, and definitely a big step up for Nissan, so they've done well on that front. I like the driving position too. You do get standard lumbar adjustment and electric seat adjustment in the Ariya. You sit quite high up actually, but the seats really kind of hold you nice and firmly, and it does actually give you lots of support, so I do quite like that.
The Nissan gets two 12.3-inch screens, with the central touchscreen being the window to all of your infotainment needs. Standard equipment includes sat-nav with charger search function, as well as wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto.
Equipment in the ID.5 is really generous. You get this fake leather and suede finish, which actually I really quite like. You get 30-way ambient lighting, heated seats. You get really kind of everything that you expect. However, I do think that it would benefit from having lumbar adjustment. I don't even really mind the fact that you get manual seat adjustment on this entry-level live trim that we have here, but definitely lumbar adjustment would benefit because this seat feels quite flat otherwise.
The VW's 12.3-inch touchscreen gets really decent graphics and is very easy to see even in direct light. Plus, you get sat-nav, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as over-the-air software updates. It is blighted by those annoying touch-sensitive temperature controls for the climate,
but generally I think the materials in here feel pretty decent. I just don't think it has the wow factor that the Nissan has.
When it comes to charging, both cars get the same Type 2 and CCS sockets, which are compatible with every home charger and the vast majority of public chargers across the UK and Western Europe. A full charge at home will take under 13 hours in the big battery Volkswagen and Ariya, while the smaller battery Nissan will take more like 9 hours. Both get peak rapid charging speeds of 130 kilowatts, so if you plug into a 150 kilowatt DC rapid charger, you'll get a 100 mile top up in roughly 15 minutes, or a 10 to 80% battery charge in around 30 minutes.
So this is actually the smaller battery of the two available in the Ariya, so this is a 63 kilowatt hour, but you still get 215 brake horsepower motor on the front wheels. It's rear wheel drive in the ID.5, front wheel drive in the Ariya, and that gives this a 7.5 second 0 to 62 time, and it does actually feel pretty punchy. I have to say, it's got a proper sort of spring in its step when you want it to, the Ariya, so the performance is pretty decent. I mean, having said that, that's pretty middling by the standards of this class. You know, the Mustang Mach-E, never mind the Tesla Model Y, absolutely scorching by comparison. The handling is also, it's fairly middling. It turns into a corner fine. The steering's quite light. It's just one of those cars that feels quite heavy. It doesn't really disguise its weight too well. In terms of its handling and its performance, the Nissan is competitive with the vast majority of its rivals, including the Skoda Enyaq that we favour, but it's also nothing particularly special. To be honest, it's a bit disappointing. Now, this car is on 19-inch wheels, it's on huge balloon tyres, it's on 55-section Bridgestone tyres, and the ride, a lot of the time it's fine, but if you get kind of quite a choppy urban road particularly, it really does feel quite unsettled, and when you do hit, you know, the potholes that you typically find a lot in the UK, this kind of thing, or the manhole covers, get a really big thump, and quite loud suspension too. So I'd say that ride comfort, probably not quite as bad as a Tesla Model Y, but definitely not as good as in the Volkswagen ID.5 or, for instance, the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Pros and cons, of course, but I do think that Nissan could have just tried a little bit harder to get the dynamics a bit balanced a bit better. Either focus on the comfort or on the sportiness, because at the moment the Nissan seems to be kind of just about adequate on both fronts, but not really particularly special at either. Now, Nissan sort of pioneered the one-pedal driving mode, which is where the brake regen, and that, don't forget, is a system whereby when you lift off the throttle, the car feels like it's braking itself, and what it's doing is harvesting energy to increase the efficiency and the range in the car. In Nissan, you get something called e-pedal, which is the same as that one-pedal drive mode, and it does, when it kicks in, you do have to get used to it if you've never used it before, because it does feel quite peculiar, but it doesn't take that much time, and then you can find that you can drive around town with barely using the brake pedal at all. It's very easy to get used to. Or you can turn e-pedal off, and then you can toggle through the drive modes up here to change your steering weight and all that sort of thing. You can put it into a slightly heavier mode here with this very fancy looking futuristic sort of gear shifter thing. So that's a slightly a sort of happy medium in between your normal drive mode and one pedal drive mode. The ID.5, interestingly, takes a completely different tack and barely has any brake regen at all in normal drive mode, and then you can just slightly weight it up if you want to, so it's a bit simpler in the Volkswagen. Both of them quite easy to get used to, and if you've never driven an EV before, this all sounds a bit intimidating and weird. Honestly, just have a go, because they're really, really easy to drive and really easy to get used to. So it's one of those things that's just a case of a bit of familiarity, really. If you're expecting the ID.5 to be particularly sporty, then I think you're going to be a bit disappointed. So this car here that we've got, it's the base spec Life, and it's the Pro, so it's not even the Performance Pro, which gets a more powerful 201 brake horsepower motor. This standard car gets 172 brake horsepower, and it's pretty sedate, to say the least. So you're talking about 10.4 seconds to 62 miles an hour. That doesn't bother me overly much because, to be honest, it's punchy enough in normal everyday use, but there is no getting away from the fact that it is well, it's slow. Of course, there is the GTX version, which is 4-wheel drive and near enough 300 brake horsepower, so I'm sure that that will have quite a lot more vigour to it, but we haven't driven it yet. And on this evidence, I'm going to say that the ID.5 is definitely a more comfort-oriented car, and I think that's one of its strengths actually. This is a particularly poor road surface that I'm on right now, but generally I've quite enjoyed my time in the ID.5 because it's just really chilled. It rides really nicely, actually peculiarly slightly better even than the ID.4, I seem to remember. This is on 20-inch wheels, this test car, very refined, not much wind noise, almost no motor whine at all. You know, the steering's fine, it weights up all right. There is no sport mode, so I think even Volkswagen has decided that it's not really bother even pretending that this is sporty. You go through the drive modes here, and you've got your eco, your comfort and your individual, where you can weight up the steering, and there is actually a sport mode if you bother to sort of find it deep down in there, but it all gels nicely for being comfortable and relaxed. But I'm a bit disappointed that it's just a bit middling in terms of its performance and in the way it handles. You know, it's just not the sports SUV that I think a lot of people might hope and expect it to be. Really, taking these two apart just proves that they're both admirable, likeable for various different reasons, the Nissan particularly for the way it looks and the way it feels inside, but neither of them is class leading. Honestly, the problem with these two are their rivals. The Kia EV6, pretty much just as practical and better to drive. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, more techy, cooler to look at. You've got the Tesla Model Y, you've got the Skoda Enyaq iV, which is still our favourite all-round family EV. They really are just swamped by competition, these two. And in that context, well, neither is class leading.
When it comes to real-world range, the VW proved a little more efficient in our tests and returned 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour in warmer conditions and varied driving, which included a fair bit of motorway stuff. That adds up to a range of 254 miles from this 77 kilowatt hour battery, while the Nissan managed more like 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour. That's 195 miles per charge on this smaller battery version. Ultimately, both of these cars are recommendable for their tech and general sophistication, but neither is a standout in this very competitive class. For its comfort and efficiency, we would have to choose the Volkswagen over the Nissan here, but only by a small margin, and the Nissan is no doubt your best bet if you do value the style and interior finish. Head to CarGurus.co.uk for a whole host of fantastic used cars. We will even tell you if it's a good deal or not. And while we've got you, you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel, and do turn your notifications on so that you don't miss any of our videos.